All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to your personalized deep dive, all about marketing.
So good.
We're going way past just the buzzwords and really getting to the core principles
Right.
based on this principal marketing.pdf that you sent.
Yeah.
It's going to be like your crash course to understanding how marketing works all around you.
I like it. It's about understanding how it impacts us, not just as consumers, but also as participants in this whole marketplace.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this document, it starts with something that I think a lot of people kind of get mixed up.
Okay.
The difference between selling and marketing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, they're not really the same thing at all, are they?
You're right. It is a really common misconception. Selling is just a part of marketing. It's like one part of a bigger puzzle. Marketing is kind of the whole strategy, the foundation,
Yeah.
and then selling is kind of what comes after all of that groundwork's been laid.
So it's like the document uses this example of building a house. You wouldn't try to sell a house that
Right.
you hadn't even, built the foundation for,
No,
right?
right.
There's so much planning that comes before you even get to the point of selling it.
Yeah, exactly. Marketing is all about understanding, what's the market, what are the needs, what's a product that fits that need, how are we going to price it, how do we make it available, how do we promote it.
Mm.
Selling is just that, that last step in the process.
And that is such a key thing to understand, wouldn't you say? Whether you're a business owner, a product developer, or even if you just want to be a more informed consumer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're trying to make good decisions.
Right. You have to understand this.
Okay.
Now, to really get to, the nuts and bolts of marketing, I think
Yeah.
we need like a good, solid definition.
Okay.
And this document, it quotes the CIM,
Okay.
which is the Chartered Institute of Marketing. They define marketing as the management process that identifies, anticipates, and satisfies customer requirements profitably.
Okay. I like that. That's a good one.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there.
There is
Yeah.
a lot to break down there. Yeah. It's saying that marketing is a process.
Right.
It's not just a bunch of random actions. It's a series of steps.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with identifying your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you trying to reach? What are their needs? What kind of challenges are they facing?
It's like detective work almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trying to get into the mind of your customer.
Exactly. And then delivering value, creating something, a product or a service
Right.
that actually addresses those needs or those challenges that they're facing. But, and this is where it gets interesting, you have to do it profitably.
Right.
A great idea that doesn't make money, it's not sustainable, is it,
Makes sense.
in the long run?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a definition.
Right.
We've established that marketing is way more than just selling. It's this strategic process.
And then the document dives into some of the key players in this whole world of marketing. And it makes this distinction that I think is really interesting between customers and consumers.
Oh, okay.
It's something I hadn't really thought about before. But
Some important difference, yeah.
yeah.
A lot of times they're the same.
Right.
Like if you buy a coffee, you're the customer and you're the one drinking the coffee.
Yeah.
But think about if a parent buys cereal for their child.
Okay.
The parent's the customer, the one making the decision and paying.
Right.
But the child's the one who consumes the product.
I see that. Yeah. That's a good example.
Yeah.
And that would change how you approach your marketing, wouldn't it? You have
Sure.
to understand who you're actually marketing to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The one who's buying or the one who's using.
Yeah.
And then there's this idea of the virtual market
Good.
where, technology has totally revolutionized things.
Absolutely.
We're talking online shopping, we're talking social media ads, the whole digital landscape.
It's all changed now.
Yeah.
The marketplace isn't just like brick and mortar stores anymore, right? You can buy anything online.
Right.
And businesses can reach consumers in ways they never could before.
Right.
So this virtual market, it's a huge force in how marketing works today.
Okay, so we've got customers and consumers and this whole virtual marketplace.
Right.
The document also talks about something called the marketing network.
Oh, what?
Can you tell me more about that?
It really comes down to relationships. It's not just a straight line between the business and the customer.
Okay.
It's about understanding that web of relationships, the suppliers, the distributors, the partners, even influencers now.
Mm-hmm.
They all play a part in getting that product or service into the hands of the people that want it.
So it's more like an ecosystem where...
Yeah, I like that. An ecosystem where everything is interconnected, yeah.
Okay.
And a successful marketing strategy involves managing those relationships well.
So let's get into like some of the actual tools that marketers use. And this document talks about the 4 Ps of marketing,
Okay, yeah.
which is this classic framework that helps break down kind of the key elements
Yeah, I like that. The 4
of a
Ps.
marketing strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember learning about the 4 Ps.
Yeah,
They're pretty easy to remember,
right.
and they're really practical. So the first one is product, right?
Yeah.
And that's not just the physical product itself. It's also the features and the design, the packaging, the branding, even associated services.
Yeah, and it has to address those
Yeah.
needs of your market, right?
Right. I mean, like take Tesla, for example.
Yeah.
Like they completely revolutionized the place part of the 4 Ps with those charging stations.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not just about convenience. It's about enhancing the whole ownership experience.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, when you start thinking about the 4 Ps that way, it's actually kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And there's price,
Yeah.
which seems pretty straightforward. But I imagine it's way more complicated than it looks.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Pricing it's about finding that balance, isn't it? Where the customers feel like they're getting value for their money and the business is still making a profit.
Right.
It's a tough one.
Then you've got place, which is about making the product accessible.
Yep.
So that's your distribution channels, your store locations, online platforms, even logistics of delivery.
Yeah, make sure it gets to the right people the right way.
And then lastly, promotion. This is how you tell people about your product.
Right.
So we're talking advertising, public relations, sales, promotions, social media, all of that stuff.
Communicate that value.
Yeah. Get the word out.
Encourage people to buy.
So, I mean, for our listener, understanding those 4 Ps can be super valuable. It's about, being a smart consumer,
Yes,
recognizing how these different elements influence our decisions.
absolutely. And, one thing that this document talks about is that marketing isn't just about selling products. It really impacts our standard of living. It impacts employment opportunities, even economic development.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's bigger than we think.
It is interesting when you start thinking about how something that, seems like it's focused on business can actually have these ripple effects across society. Can you elaborate on those a little bit?
Yeah. When we talk about standard of living, think about how marketing is making products and services available that improve our lives.
Right.
Whether it's like the basic necessities or, all this cool technology that's coming out.
Right, yeah.
Connecting people with solutions that can make their lives better.
And in terms of employment, I mean, this whole marketing ecosystem generates, tons of jobs.
Yeah. All kinds of jobs. Salespeople, designers, people working in logistics. I mean,
Right.
you name it.
And when those marketing efforts are successful, a company's profits grow, which then can, trickle down and benefit the economy as a whole.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Stimulates economic growth.
Okay, now this document introduces this idea of a marketing environment, both internal and external.
Right.
Internal factors are things that companies can control,
Right.
like their budget or their team or their product development. External factors are those that they can't control.
Exactly. And they have to adapt to.
Yeah, they gotta figure out how to navigate those. And some of those external factors, they directly impact you as a consumer.
Yeah.
So I think those are the ones we should talk about.
Right.
Competition seems like a really obvious one, right? I mean, that impacts pricing, product innovation, how businesses position themselves in the market.
Oh, yeah. Competition is huge. If you're a business, you got to know who you're up against, right? What their strategies are.
Yeah.
And as a consumer, it helps you make informed choices.
Right.
Compare different products.
And then there's technology. I mean, this is something we kind of touched on already, but I mean,
Sure.
the way we interact with brands,
Yeah.
how we shop, how we consume information,
Yeah.
it's totally different thanks to technology. Online shopping, social media, smartphones. I mean,
It's all changed.
it's all changed.
Marketers have to keep up with it
Yeah.
to stay relevant.
And then, we can't forget about economic conditions.
Yeah, of course.
All right, huge impact. Whether the economy's booming or struggling, that has a massive effect on
Yeah, that does.
spending habits and just consumer behavior.
Yeah.
The document then talks about this thing called market segmentation.
Okay.
which is where marketers, instead of trying to appeal to everybody,
Right.
they get really strategic and target specific groups of consumers who
Yeah.
have similar needs or characteristics.
Really.
And they give some really interesting examples of how this works, like geographic segmentation. People in different regions, they just have different preferences.
They do, yeah.
Think about clothing styles, like what's appropriate in a warm climate versus a cold climate.
Absolutely.
Even food preferences are different in different parts of the country or the world.
Yeah.
Then there's demographic segmentation, which looks at things like age,
Yeah.
gender, income, education level. I mean, obviously a teenager has different needs.
Totally
Yeah,
different
well,
than a retiree.
Different products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then psychographic segmentation.
Yeah.
This is really interesting. This gets into lifestyle.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Values, even personality.
Right.
Are you, a risk taker? Are you cautious? Are you practical?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen an ad
Mm.
and felt like it was like speaking directly to you?
Absolutely.
That's probably because they did a good job of segmentation.
They've done the research, yeah.
They figured out who they're targeting.
Targeted you effectively.
Mm.
Yeah. Now it seems like marketers are constantly gathering information about their target audience
Right.
and they're segmenting the market. But how do they actually use this information to make decisions? This document mentions something called marketing information systems.
Oh.
Can you explain what that is?
Think of it as the central hub, where all this data comes together. They're gathering information, analyzing it, and then using it to make smart decisions.
Okay, so what kind of data goes into this system?
A lot of it is internal records, the company's own data, sales figures, customer demographics, feedback they've gotten.
Okay.
It gives them insights into what's worked in the past and what their customers are like.
And then there's marketing intelligence, which sounds like it's more about kind of keeping an eye on.
Yeah, that's more about what's happening outside the company. What are competitors doing? What are the new trends in the industry? What are consumers up to?
Okay, so it's like having a team of spies gathering information.
Kind of, yeah. That's a good way to think about it. Helps companies stay ahead of the game, anticipate what's going to happen next.
And of course, there's market research,
Yeah.
which we've talked about a little bit already. That's about actively gathering data to answer specific questions.
Targeted approach.
Yeah, yeah.
Understanding specific aspects of the market.
Now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about consumer behavior.
Okay.
I mean, this is one of the most fascinating parts of marketing.
It is.
The document poses this question: why do we buy the things we buy?
That's a good question.
Right. It's a question we've all asked ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
At some point.
Yeah.
But there's actually a science behind it, right?
Here is.
Understanding the factors that influence our decisions.
It is powerful.
Yeah.
For marketers.
It's like unlocking the secrets of our own minds.
Yes.
And it's incredibly valuable for both, the marketers themselves, but also for consumers, just to be aware of this stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this document, it breaks down these influencing factors into 3 categories: psychological,
Yeah.
personal, and cultural.
Okay.
Let's start with psychological. I mean, our motivations,
Big one.
our perceptions, our past experiences, our beliefs,
Yeah.
all of that plays a role in what we choose to buy.
Hmm.
Are we driven by status? Are we looking for convenience? Are we afraid of, missing out?
Powerful motivators.
Yeah. If you can tap into those, that's where the magic happens.
That's where the magic happens, yeah. And then you have the personal factors, things like age, lifestyle, occupation, economic situation.
Right, right.
A college student is going to make different decisions than a young parent or a retiree.
Totally different.
Totally different situation.
And social factors can be really powerful too.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how trends and
Oh, yeah.
social media and
Yeah.
influencer marketing, all of that can shape our perception of
Absolutely.
what's cool, what's desirable.
What we should be buying.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about how businesses try to predict how much people are going to buy.
Right.
This document, it mentions this thing called demand forecasting.
Right. Big one.
I mean, it sounds incredibly complex.
It can be, yeah. It's a tool that businesses use to try to estimate how much of a product or service they're going to sell
Okay.
in the future.
Okay.
It's not about being absolutely certain. It's about making educated guesses based on data and trends.
Right. So what kinds of factors go into these forecasts?
Well, economic conditions are a huge factor.
Right.
If there's a recession, people aren't going to be spending as much.
Right.
If the economy is doing well, there might be more demand.
Right.
Then you've got seasonal trends to consider. Some products are more popular certain times a year.
Yeah, yeah. Like holiday shopping.
Exactly. Back to school,
Right.
those kinds of things.
And competition, of course. Can't forget about that.
Competition's huge.
Right.
If a competitor launches a similar product at a lower price, you're going to have to adjust your forecast.
It's a lot to consider.
It is. It's all about analyzing the data and making those strategic projections.
Okay, before we move on, I wanna circle back to something that you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
The difference between selling and marketing.
Right.
I think this document offers a really interesting perspective on this, especially when it comes to branding.
Oh, yeah.
Branding is such a huge part of marketing.
It is. It is massive.
And the document kind of touches on it when it's talking about product strategy.
Yeah.
But a strong brand, I mean, that can be so powerful, can it?
Oh, yeah. It builds trust.
Mm-hmm.
It creates loyalty. People are even willing to pay more for a brand they trust.
Right. I mean, think about like Apple or Nike.
Yeah. Big brands.
I mean, they've built such strong identities that people really connect with.
They have.
So how does a company build a strong brand? I mean, it seems like it's about everything.
It is. Yeah.
You know, the product itself,
Mhm.
the packaging, the marketing messages, customer service. It's a lot to consider.
It's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything you do as a company. It starts with understanding your target audience. What do they care about?
Right.
And then figuring out what are the core values that you want your brand to represent? What's the personality of your brand? What's your brand voice? What's your story?
So it's about more than just
It's way more.
a catchy tagline, right?
It's everything.
It's about how you behave as a company.
Yeah. Your actions, your products, you treat your customers.
Yeah, yeah. It's about the whole experience you're creating.
Yeah, the whole experience, consistency.
Right. Consistency is key.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, this document, it goes on to explore all kinds of other marketing concepts.
Yeah, it does.
Including some that might be interesting to you based on your background. I'm kind of intrigued to hear what those are.
It talks about different types of marketing, like the production concept, the product concept, the selling concept, the marketing concept, the societal marketing concept, and even this holistic marketing thing. Kind of a journey through how marketing has been thought about.
Wow. So many different ways to approach it. Can you break those down for me?
Yeah. So the production concept is all about the idea that consumers will prefer products that are available and affordable.
Okay.
You know, they're easy to get and they're cheap.
Okay.
So the focus is on efficient production and distribution.
Mm-hmm.
You know, make a lot of it and make sure it's easy to get.
Yeah. It's a very production-oriented approach.
Yeah, it is. It can be effective in some situations.
Yeah.
You know, demand is really high or if you need to get the cost down.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't always consider what customers actually want.
Right.
It just assumes that availability and affordability are the most important things.
Okay, then there's the product concept.
Yeah, the product concept. This is all about the idea that consumers will want a product that's high quality, that has good performance, innovative features.
Right. So it's all about building the best possible product.
Yeah, it's all about the product, yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with that is sometimes you get what's called marketing myopia.
Mm.
You're so focused on the product, you forget about the customer.
So you could end up with a great product that nobody actually wants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They build a fantastic product that nobody wants.
Yeah.
Or needs.
Then there's the selling concept.
Yeah, the selling concept.
Yeah.
This is all about pushing the product, you know. Aggressive selling, lots of promotion.
Okay.
You use it when you've got too much inventory or
Yeah.
you're selling something that people don't really need, but you can maybe convince them to buy.
I mean, that might work in the short term, but it doesn't really build long-term relationships.
Doesn't build loyalty now.
Mm.
It's all about getting that sale,
Right.
not about cultivating a long-term customer.
Yeah.
Now, the marketing concept, that's different. That's about understanding and meeting the needs of your market.
Right.
It's customer-centric.
It's the opposite of that selling concept, right?
Exactly, yeah. Long-term relationships instead of just pushing for the quick sale.
Right. It's about creating value for the customer.
Yeah, creating value.
Not just trying to sell them something they don't need.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And then there's the societal marketing concept, which takes it even a step further.
Okay.
That's about considering the ethics,
Mm-hmm.
the social impact
Right.
of your marketing decisions. Finding a balance between profit for the company, satisfying the customers, and also making sure you're doing good for society.
It's about doing well by doing good, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Recognizing that companies have a responsibility to society and the environment.
And finally, there's the holistic marketing concept.
Ballistic marketing, this kind of ties everything together.
Right. It's the
Everything.
very big picture.
Yeah, it's recognizing that everything is connected. You've got your internal marketing, your relationship marketing, your integrated marketing, socially responsible marketing.
Yeah.
It's all one big system.
It's like this overarching approach
It is.
that tries to bring everything together.
Yeah, aims to create value for everyone involved.
Okay. That's quite a range of approaches.
It is.
It's interesting to see like the different schools of thought around marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it's a reflection of how our understanding of consumers has evolved.
Mm-hmm.
The market has evolved. We're more aware of ethical considerations now.
Right.
We're more focused on those long-term sustainable relationships with customers.
Right.
It's all changed.
Now, you mentioned before that this document, it goes into market research in quite a bit of detail.
Yeah, it does. It talks about this 5-step process for conducting market research.
Right.
And it's really interesting. It shows how you go from like this general idea to, actionable data.
Yeah, break that down for me.
Yeah. So the first step is problem definition. You got to figure out what information you need and why. That's the most important because it sets the stage for everything else.
It's like laying the foundation for a house.
Yeah, exactly. You got to know what you're building before you start.
Then there's research design.
Research design. That's about planning how you're going to do the research. What methods will you use? What tools will you use? How will you choose the people for your study?
So there are different ways to collect data.
Oh, yeah, there are. The document talks about secondary data. That's information that already exists.
Yeah.
And then primary data, which you go out and collect yourself.
Okay, so secondary data would be like industry reports, government statistics.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
And then primary data would be like, actually conducting your own surveys or interviews.
Exactly. And the tools you use will depend on what you're trying to find out.
Yeah.
They mention questionnaires, they mention observation, even experiments.
It's pretty complex stuff.
Yeah, it can be, but the insights you gain from it can be really valuable.
Right.
Then once you've collected all that data, you got to do field work. You got to put your plan into action.
Right.
That takes a lot of careful planning and execution
Yeah, for sure.
to make sure the data's good, it's accurate, it's reliable.
Then there's data analysis.
Data analysis, that's where you take all that raw data, you start making sense of it.
Right.
You're looking for patterns, you're looking for trends, you're using statistics and other tools.
It's about taking that raw data and turning it into
Insights, yeah.
something usable.
Yeah, making it meaningful.
Yeah.
So you can guide your decisions.
And then finally you've got the reporting and implementation stage.
Right. That's where you take all your findings, you summarize them, you make recommendations, and most importantly, you put those recommendations into action.
It's about actually turning the research into results.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, this whole process, it's really valuable, but I imagine it can be, quite time consuming and expensive.
It can be. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be. But there are ways to be more efficient. There's a lot of online tools now that can help with data collection and analysis.
Right.
And even a small-scale market research project, you can still learn a lot.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier that this document dives into consumer behavior.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear more about what it covers there.
It talks about these internal and external factors that shape the environment for the company.
Right.
The internal factors are the things that the company can control.
Right. So like their mission, their resources. Their organizational structure.
Yeah, their structure.
Their culture.
Yeah, the culture of the company. Yep. That's the foundation for their marketing.
And then the external factors, those are the things that they can't control, but they need to respond to.
They have to adapt it.
So we're talking like economic conditions, technological advancement, social trends,
a social trend,
political and legal factors.
Yeah, all of those. Yeah.
Competition.
It's
a lot to keep up with.
It is. It's a constantly changing world out there.
Yeah. Speaking of complex and ever-changing, I want to hear more about forecasting.
Oh, yeah.
Forecasting.
Right. We kind of touched on this before, but it's such a crucial part of marketing.
It is. It's all about trying to predict the future, which is inherently uncertain.
Right.
But companies can make some good estimations about what they think is going to happen, with their sales or with demand or with other metrics.
Right.
By looking at their past data, current trends, and any factors that they think are relevant.
It's like piecing together a puzzle.
Yeah.
With all the information you have.
Yeah. A complex puzzle.
Yeah. You mentioned before that there were different levels of forecasting.
Yeah.
Can you remind me what those are? Yeah. So there's the macro level, which is looking at the big picture,
Okay.
the overall economic environment.
Right.
So welcome back to our a deep dive into all things marketing.
Glad to be back.
Before we took a break, we were just starting to talk about this interesting idea of the 4 Cs,
Right.
kind of the buyer's perspective on the traditional 4 Ps of marketing.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by this idea of like flipping the script
Yeah.
and looking at marketing through the eyes of the customer.
Yeah, yeah.
It seems like such a powerful way to understand what really matters to them.
It is.
So we talked about how the first C, customer solution, aligns with the first P, product, right?
Right.
It's about shifting that focus away from the product itself
Yeah.
and really thinking about how it solves a problem
Yeah.
or fulfills a need for the customer.
That's what they care about
right.
at the end of the day.
So what about the other C's?
All
How do they connect with the P's?
right, well, let's look at the second P, price,
Okay.
and its corresponding C, which is cost to the customer.
Okay.
And this one goes beyond just the price tag, you know.
Oh, okay.
It's everything the customer has to give up
Oh, okay.
to get that product.
So it's more than just like the money they spend at the register.
It is, yeah. It's the time they spend researching, comparing different products,
Okay.
the effort, the inconvenience. You know, maybe they have to travel to a store or figure out how to buy it online.
Right.
Maybe there's even psychological costs, like buyer's remorse.
I never thought about it that way, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You know, it really makes you realize that there's so much more that goes into a purchasing decision
There is, yeah.
than just that number on the price tag.
It's not just about the money. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So smart marketers, they understand this, right?
They do.
And they try to minimize those hidden costs.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's why you see things like free shipping, hassle-free returns.
Right.
Those can really reduce the cost to the customer.
Yeah, it makes it seem less risky
Right.
to buy something.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the next pair?
Okay, so we've got the third P, place,
Mm-hmm.
and it's C, convenient.
Convenience. Okay.
So it's all about making it easy
Okay.
for the customer to actually buy the product, to receive it.
I mean, like, online shopping is a perfect example of this, right?
It is.
I mean, it's all about convenience. You can browse, you can purchase from anywhere.
for any time.
Anytime, there's more selection than ever before.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's not just online, right?
Right.
Think about things like in-store pickup, curbside delivery,
Right. Right.
mobile payment options.
Yeah.
All those things make it more convenient.
Yeah, it's about just making that whole buying process as easy as possible.
Exactly, yeah. Frictionless. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Frictionless.
Okay, and the last P and C.
All right, so we've got the fourth P, promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And that aligns with communication.
Communication. Okay.
And this is really about a shift,
Okay.
from a one-way broadcast of information to a two-way conversation.
Okay.
So it's not just about pushing out marketing messages. It's about listening to customers,
Okay.
engaging in conversations, building relationships.
So it's not just talking at your customers, it's about
No,
talking with them.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And social media is a great example of that, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
You can have direct interactions,
Mhm.
you can get feedback,
Yeah.
you can build a community around your brand.
Right. It's totally changed that dynamic, hasn't it?
It has,
Yeah.
it has.
Yeah.
Now, this whole discussion about different perspectives on marketing,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of ties in with something else that the document explores, which is the evolution of marketing itself. It touches on all these different approaches, like, the production concept, the product concept, the selling concept, the marketing concept, the societal marketing concept, and even this thing called holistic marketing.
Wow. That's a lot of different ways to approach marketing.
It is.
Can you walk me through those different concepts?
Yeah. So let's start with the production concept.
Okay.
This is based on the idea that, consumers, they're going to prefer products that are available and they're affordable.
Okay.
They're easy to get and they're cheap.
Right.
So the focus is on efficient production and distribution. Make a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Make it easy to find.
Right, right.
It works in some situations, like
Yeah.
if demand is really high
Right,
or if you need to get the cost down.
right.
But it doesn't always take into account what customers actually want.
Right. It's very production centric, as the name suggests.
It is, yeah. It just kind of assumes that availability and affordability are the most important things.
Yeah.
Then you've got the product concept, and this is all about the idea that consumers are going to want a product that's high quality,
Right.
that performs well,
Yeah.
that has innovative features. So the focus here is on constantly improving your product.
So the focus is all on building the best possible product.
It is.
Mm.
But it can sometimes lead to what's called marketing myopia, where you get so focused on the product that you lose sight of the bigger picture.
Right.
What do the customers actually need?
Right. You could end up with a great product that nobody wants.
Exactly.
It doesn't actually solve a problem.
Yeah. They build this fantastic product and nobody wants it.
Yeah.
Then you've got the selling concept.
Okay.
And this is all about pushing the product.
Okay.
Aggressive selling.
Okay.
Lots of promotion.
Right. Right.
You see this when companies have too much inventory or they're selling something that people don't really need, but they can maybe convince them to buy it.
Right. Like those late night infomercials, right?
Exactly.
Or door-to-door salespeople.
Yeah, those.
I mean, it can work, but it doesn't really build those long-term
Doesn't build loyalty. No.
relationships.
No.
And then you have the marketing concept,
The marketing concept.
which is, we've talked about this already.
Yeah, we have.
It's about understanding and meeting the needs of your target market.
Absolutely.
Right. It's that customer-centric approach.
It is.
It's the opposite of that selling concept.
It is, yeah. Long-term relationships.
Yeah.
Instead of just pushing for the quick sale.
Right. It's about creating value for the customer.
It is, yeah.
And then there's the societal marketing concept, which takes it a step further.
Societal marketing concept takes it even further.
Yeah.
It's about thinking about the ethics, the social impact of your marketing decisions.
Right. So it's about
Finding that balance between profits, satisfying your customers, and also doing what's good for society.
Right. It's that whole idea of doing well by doing good.
Exactly, yeah. Recognizing that companies have a responsibility to the world around them.
And then finally, you have the holistic marketing concept, which kind of ties everything together.
Holistic marketing, yeah. It's recognizing that everything is connected. You've got your internal marketing,
Right.
your relationship marketing, your integrated marketing, your socially responsible marketing. It's all one big system.
It's a very, very big picture approach.
It is, yeah.
It's about bringing all these different aspects together.
Yeah, creating value for everyone involved.
Okay. So that's quite a range of approaches.
Yeah, it is.
It's fascinating to see how marketing has evolved.
It is.
Moving away from that production-centric approach to something that's, more holistic and more customer-centric.
Absolutely.
And more socially responsible.
It's a reflection of how our world has changed, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Our understanding of consumers has changed.
Yeah.
The market has evolved. We're more aware of these ethical considerations.
Right.
We really value those long-term relationships with customers.
Right.
It's all changed.
Now, you mentioned before that this document, it goes into market research.
Oh, yeah. The 5 steps of the market research process.
In quite a bit of detail.
It does.
And it's really interesting to see how it kind of goes from like this general idea or question to this concrete data that can actually be used
To make decisions, yeah.
Yeah. So can you walk me through those 5 steps again?
Yeah. So the first step is problem definition.
Okay.
And this is where you really articulate what information you need and why it's important.
Right. Right.
And this is key because this sets the stage for the whole research process.
It's like laying the foundation for a house.
Yeah, exactly. You got to know what you're building
Yeah.
before you start.
Yeah.
And then you've got research design,
Yeah.
and this is where you develop the plan for how you're actually going to do the research.
Okay.
What methods are you going to use?
Right.
What tools will you use? How will you choose your participants?
So there are different ways to collect data, right?
Oh, there are, yeah.
Yeah.
They talk about secondary data,
Mm-hmm.
which is information that already exists.
Okay.
And then primary data, which is what you go out and collect yourself.
So secondary data would be like industry reports, government statistics,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then primary data would be, going out and conducting your own surveys or interviews.
Precisely, yeah. And the tools you use will depend on what you're trying to find out.
Right.
They talk about questionnaires, they talk about observation, even experiments.
So it's pretty complex stuff.
Can be, yeah.
But the insights that you can gain from it can be...
Can be really valuable, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Then once you've collected all that data, you got to go do the field work. Put your plan into action.
Right.
This takes a lot of planning and execution
Yeah.
to make sure that the data is good quality.
Right. You got to make sure it's accurate.
Absolutely.
You got to make sure it's reliable.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the data analysis stage,
Data analysis.
which is where you take all that raw data and...
Yeah, and you start to make sense of it.
Right.
You're looking for patterns, you're looking for trends,
Mhm.
using all kinds of tools and techniques
It's about taking that raw data and turning it into something.
into insights,
Yeah.
making it meaningful so that you can make good decisions.
Right. Right.
And then finally, you've got the reporting and implementation stage.
Okay.
And that's where you take all your findings, summarize them,
Yeah.
make your recommendations, and then, most importantly, you put those recommendations into action.
So it's about turning research into results.
Exactly.
So, I mean, this whole process seems incredibly valuable,
It is.
but I imagine it can also be pretty time-consuming and expensive.
It can be. Yeah, it can be. But, there are ways to be more efficient these days.
Okay.
There are a lot of online tools and resources that can help
Right.
with data collection and analysis,
Yeah.
and even a small-scale project. You can still learn a lot.
Right.
It doesn't have to be this big, expensive thing all the time.
Okay, now, you mentioned before that the document talks about consumer behavior.
Yeah, it does. It talks about the internal and external factors that shape the environment for the company.
Right. So the internal factors, those are the things that the company can control.
Exactly. Yeah. Things like their mission,
Mm-hmm.
their resources,
Right.
their organizational structure, their culture.
Right. Right. And that really forms the foundation of
Yeah, it does.
their marketing strategy.
Absolutely.
And then you have the external factors,
The external factors.
which are those things they can't control, but they need to respond to.
Yeah, they got to adapt.
Right. So we're talking about economic conditions, technological advancements, social trends, political and legal factors, competition.
Yeah, all of that. And it's always changing.
Right. It's a constantly shifting landscape.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, it is. Speaking of complex and ever-changing, I want to talk a little bit more about forecasting.
Okay, yeah.
Forecasting.
Right. We kind of touched on this before.
We did. Yeah.
But it's such a crucial part of marketing.
It is. Yeah. It's all about trying to predict the future,
Right.
which is, of course, inherently uncertain.
Right.
But, companies can make some pretty educated estimations about what they think is going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
with demand or with sales or with other metrics
Right.
by looking at their past data,
Okay.
current trends, and other factors that they think are relevant.
It's like piecing together a puzzle, right?
It is.
With all the information you have to try to
Pieces, yeah.
get the clearest picture.
Yeah. So you mentioned before that there were different levels of forecasting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you remind me what those are?
Yeah. So there's the macro level, which is looking at the big picture,
Okay.
the overall economic environment,
Right.
taking into account things like economic growth, inflation rates,
Yeah.
interest rates.
So that's really about understanding the big picture.
Yeah, it is.
And then you have industry level forecasting,
Industry level, yeah.
which narrows the focus a little bit.
Narrows it down to a specific industry or sector.
Okay.
Looking at trends, competition, other factors that are specific to that industry.
So it's about understanding the forces that are shaping
Yeah,
a particular market.
absolutely, yeah.
And then you have firm level forecasting,
Ground level,
which is even more specific.
the most specific.
All right.
This is about predicting the future of a specific company,
Okay.
looking at their own data,
Mm-hmm.
their marketing plans, their competitive position.
So it's about understanding the company's unique
Yeah, their strengths and weaknesses.
strengths, weaknesses,
Yeah.
and how those might impact.
Their performance in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that forecasting is not just about.
It's not just about the numbers.
Yeah.
It's not just about looking at the past and extrapolating. you know.
Yeah.
It's also about making assumptions about the future,
Right.
which is really hard to do.
Right, because you never know.
You never know.
Like, what if a new competitor enters the market?
Exactly.
What if there's some, big technological breakthrough?
Huge disruption. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What if consumer preferences just change completely out of the blue?
You never know.
Yeah.
So you got to be good at analyzing data.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be strategic,
Right.
and you got to have a little bit of intuition. You
You got to have a little bit of a crystal ball in there.
got to have a crystal ball.
Now, before we move on,
Okay.
I wanna talk a little bit more about distribution.
Distribution. Yeah.
Right. We
Yeah.
touched on this earlier. Mm-hmm.
But I'd love to hear more about
Okay.
the different kinds of distribution channels and strategies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Distribution is all about getting your product to the right place,
Yeah.
at the right time.
Right.
And it's really important. It can really impact a product's success.
Right.
They highlight different channels in this document, starting with direct distribution,
Mm.
where the manufacturer sells directly to the consumer.
Right.
And this is becoming increasingly popular
Mm.
with the rise of e-commerce,
Yes.
all these direct-to-consumer brands.
It cuts out the middleman.
Yeah, it cuts out the middleman.
Yeah.
And then you have indirect distribution,
Right.
which is the more traditional approach,
Right.
where you're using intermediaries like wholesalers and retailers
Mhm.
to get the product to the consumer.
So that's where you're leveraging,
Yeah.
these existing networks.
Yeah, their expertise, their resources.
Right, right. You're partnering with other companies
Yeah.
to...
Get your product to market.
You got it.
And then they talk about different distribution strategies,
Yeah.
like intensive distribution,
Intensive distribution, yeah,
I
which
think-
is about...
making the product available everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Making sure it's...
You see this with convenience goods, things that people buy frequently. They want to be able to find it easily,
Right.
like snacks or beverages, that kind of thing.
And then there's selective distribution,
Selective distribution.
which is a little bit more...
You're choosing specific outlets
yeah.
to sell your product.
Right.
You see this with products that require some specialized knowledge,
Right.
like electronics, high-end fashion, that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's about choosing...
Carefully choosing
Yeah.
the right partners.
Right. The right retail partners to
Yeah, who are going to represent your brand well.
represent your brand, provide a good customer experience,
Yeah.
and then there's exclusive distribution,
Exclusive distribution, which is, where you're...
only available in one place.
Yeah.
Or a very small number of places.
Right.
You see this with luxury goods,
Right.
where they want to control the distribution really carefully.
It creates that sense of exclusivity.
It does, yeah. Creates a sense of prestige around the product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So choosing the right distribution strategy, that's crucial, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Really is. It's about reaching your target market and building that strong brand presence.
Man, we have covered so much ground in this session.
We have.
We've talked about the evolution of marketing thought.
Yeah.
We've gotten into the details of market research, the complexities of consumer behavior.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And we've just touched on a few of the many tools and strategies that marketers use to navigate this ever-changing world.
It is. It's constantly changing, isn't it?
It is.
But I think this gives you a good overview
Yeah.
of the key principles, how it all fits together.
Yeah.
It's a good starting point, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to our next session.
Yeah.
We can, dive even deeper and explore, how these concepts can be applied
Absolutely.
to create effective strategies in the real world.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Welcome back to our final part of our marketing deep dive.
I know it's gone by fast.
It has. It really has. It's been a whirlwind tour of, the whole world of marketing.
It has.
But I feel like we've gotten a really good grasp of the core principles,
Yeah.
how they all fit together. And in this final part, I'm really excited to see how we can apply all this knowledge to the real world. We've talked about the tools, the concepts, the processes. Now let's talk strategy.
Right.
How can we use this to actually create effective marketing strategies?
Yeah, it's all about taking this foundation and turning it into action.
Right.
And there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
Every product, every market, every business is different.
Right.
So you have to adapt these principles to your specific situation.
And this document, it actually gives a really helpful framework for thinking about this.
Uh-huh.
It talks about this concept of target marketing,
Oh, yeah.
which, if I remember correctly, is about identifying and focusing on,
Yeah.
specific groups of consumers
Yeah.
who are most likely to be interested in what you're selling.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that you can't be everything to everyone.
Right.
You gotta choose your battles.
Right.
Focus your efforts on the people who are most likely to become your customers.
Right. It's about finding your tribe.
Finding your tribe. I like that.
In the document, it breaks this whole target marketing process down into 3 steps: segmentation,
Right.
targeting, and positioning.
Yep.
And we've already talked about segmentation,
Yeah, we have.
which is the process of, dividing the market into these distinct groups based on shared characteristics. And then you have targeting, where you actually evaluate those different segments.
Right.
And you decide which ones you're going to focus on.
Yeah, you're choosing your ideal customers.
Right.
The ones who are most likely to buy from you.
So you're looking for segments that are a good fit for your product,
Yeah.
large enough to be, worth your while, profitable, right?
Yeah.
And reachable, right? You have to be able to actually
To be able to reach them.
reach them with your marketing.
Yeah, got to get this message to them.
It's about finding that sweet spot where your product meets a need
Yeah.
in a market that you can actually access.
Absolutely.
And then there's positioning, which is all about creating this clear and compelling image of your product or brand in the minds of your target customers.
Yeah, it's not just about what the product does, it's about how it's perceived
Right, right, right.
by your customers.
So it's all about perception. It's about,
Yes.
differentiating yourself
Absolutely.
and communicating that unique value that you offer.
Yeah, think about Volvo, for example.
Okay.
They've always positioned themselves as the safest car brand.
Right.
And that message, that really resonates with their audience.
Yeah, it's consistent,
It is.
in all of their marketing.
Yeah, they've built a really strong identity
Yeah.
around that core value.
And this kind of brings us back to the importance of branding, which we talked about before.
Yeah, we did.
But a strong brand, that can be so valuable, Ken.
Who can?
It creates that clear identity, it builds trust, it builds loyalty.
Yeah.
It can even command higher prices.
Absolutely.
I mean, think about Apple, Nike, Starbucks.
Big brands.
I mean, these are brands that have become so much more than just
Way more.
products or services, They represent a lifestyle. They represent values.
Yeah.
They represent aspirations.
That's the power of branding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how does a company build a strong brand? It seems like there's so many elements to it.
There are.
Yeah.
It's multifaceted, but it starts with understanding your audience.
Right.
Right. What do they care about?
Yeah.
What are the core values that you want your brand to represent? What's the personality of your brand?
Yeah.
What's your brand voice? What's your story?
It's like you're defining the essence of your brand.
You are. Yeah. And once you have that, you got to communicate it consistently
Right.
across all your channels.
Right.
Think about Nike. Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Simple, powerful. They use it everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's become a mantra,
It has.
not just for athletes, but for
Yeah.
anybody who's trying to, achieve something.
Absolutely.
So it's about more than just
It is.
a catchy tagline.
Way more.
It's about
Connecting with a deeper human truth.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So we've talked about target marketing,
Right.
positioning, branding. Now let's get into the actual tactics, right?
Okay.
Like what are the specific tools
Yeah, the nitty-gritty.
that marketers use?
Yeah.
And the document, it goes into some really interesting ones, like marketing channels,
Same channels, yeah.
integrated marketing communications, different promotional tools.
All tools in the toolbox.
Let's start with marketing channels. What are those exactly?
These are the pathways that products take to get to consumers.
Okay.
It's how you get your product into the hands of your customers.
So we're talking about everything from like direct to consumer sales to retail stores
Yep.
to online marketplaces.
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
And, the channels you choose will depend on your product, your target market, your overall strategy.
Right.
If you're selling luxury goods, you might focus on exclusive distribution through your own boutiques.
Right.
Or, select high-end retailers.
Right.
If you're selling mass market products,
Yeah.
you want to be everywhere.
Right. You want to be in as many places as possible.
Yeah, as many as possible.
So it's about finding the right path
It is.
to reach your customer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you've got integrated marketing communications.
Okay.
And this is about coordinating all your marketing efforts
Mm.
so that you're creating a consistent message.
Right. It's about making sure that your advertising and your PR
Yeah.
and your sales promotions and your social media, all of that
It's all working together
is working together.
toward the same goal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like an orchestra,
I like that.
All the different instruments have to be playing the same tune.
Yeah, you got to be in harmony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in terms of specific promotional tools,
Yeah.
the document mentions a bunch of different ones.
Advertise.
Advertising,
Yeah.
PR, sales promotions,
Yep.
personal selling, direct marketing.
It's all in the mix.
Yeah.
Each tool has its strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
And you can use them in different ways.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, can you give me some examples of how these are actually used?
Yeah. Yeah. So advertising, you can use that to create awareness for a product.
Mm-hmm.
Build a brand image, highlight specific features and benefits.
Right, like those catchy jingles or those amazing visuals that you see on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Those are designed to grab your attention.
Right, and PR, I mean, that's more about building relationships with the media.
Yeah, yeah.
Generating positive press coverage.
Absolutely.
It's about managing your reputation.
Yep, your brand's reputation.
And then sales promotions.
Sales promotions, those are more about driving those short-term sales,
Okay.
encouraging people to try a product, maybe.
Right, so like discounts and coupons.
Discounts, coupons, contests, free samples, that kind of thing.
Right, it's all about incentivizing.
Yeah, get people to take action.
Yeah, yeah.
And then personal selling. That's all about those one-on-one interactions.
Yeah.
Building relationships, guiding customers through the sales process.
So it's a more personalized approach.
It is.
Yeah.
Good for complex products or for building those long-term relationships
Right.
with key clients.
And then you've got direct marketing.
Direct marketing,
Which
yeah.
includes things like email marketing,
Yeah, email,
direct mail,
direct mail,
books.
telemarketing,
Yeah.
reaching out directly.
Man, there's so many different tools and strategies
There are.
that marketers have at their disposal.
Yeah, the key is choosing the right ones
Right, right.
for your specific goals.
And that probably takes a lot of experience and knowledge.
It does, yeah. You got to understand your audience, your budget, the marketing environment.
So it's like having this toolbox full of
The toolbox.
different tools, and you
Yeah.
have to know which one to use
Exactly.
for the right job.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I think it's important to remember that marketing is a constantly evolving field.
It is, absolutely.
Right. New technologies, new trends, new consumer behaviors.
All the time.
I mean, this is a landscape that is constantly changing.
Never stand still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not just about, learning the rules and applying them.
Sure.
It's about being adaptable, being creative,
Yeah.
being willing to experiment.
The best marketers, they stay ahead of the curve.
Mhm.
They anticipate change. They adapt.
Right.
They're always learning, testing, refining.
It's not just about, selling stuff. It's
Yeah.
about understanding people.
Yeah.
It's about building relationships, creating value for your customers.
It's about making a connection,
Yeah.
telling a story, leaving a lasting impression.
So what does all this mean for our listener?
Okay.
What are the key takeaways from this deep dive into the world of marketing?
I think the biggest takeaway is that marketing is a really powerful force.
Yeah.
It shapes our world in so many ways.
Right.
It influences what we buy, how we think, even how we live.
Right.
And by understanding the principles of marketing,
Mm-hmm.
you could become a better consumer, a better communicator, maybe even a better entrepreneur.
It's about empowering yourself
It is
with knowledge and understanding.
absolutely.
And this deep dive, hopefully it's given you a good foundation to build on.
I think so, yeah. We've explored the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the complexities.
Mm-hmm.
We've even touched on some of the exciting things that are happening in the future of marketing.
I know I've learned a lot,
Me too.
and I hope our listener has too.
I'm sure they have. And like always, we encourage them to keep learning, keep exploring,
Yeah.
keep asking questions.
Right, because the more you know about marketing,
The more power you have.
yeah,
Yeah,
the better you'll be able to navigate this whole world,
absolutely.
achieve your goals,
Yeah,
make a positive impact.
make a difference.
Well, that's a wrap on our marketing deep dive. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the fascinating world of marketing.
It's been fun.
We hope you've enjoyed the ride.